Hello Daily Drafters, and welcome back to the channel for a slight continuation of the Arena Gauntlet League this year. I think I might have mentioned in our last episode that I have joined the Zombie League for Duskmourn, and this is formatted a little bit differently than last time. This one is you get 10 matches straight through, 5 matches in each of 2 weeks, and the top 8 competitors get to move on to a top 8 mega draft. Now, the way this one is formatted is everyone gets a pool of 14 Duskmourn packs. Yes, I said 14. That wasn't a typo in the way I spoke. So we get to build a 60 card deck and pool out of 14 Duskmourn packs. And every win you accumulate, you lose access to one of your packs from your pool. So, you have to kind of rebuild your deck every single win that you get. Now, if you go 0-10, you get to use the same pool, but you went 0-10, so it doesn't really matter. But this was an incredibly difficult pool to build, and I thought we could have a little bit of fun with this one here, because I opened 2 copies of Marina Vendrell in my pool. So I decided, why not build around it? Let's see what rares we got. Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, Enduring Curiosity, Victor over here. We've got Valgavoth's Onslaught. We've got Double Mirror Room, Fractured Realm, Restricted Office, Dollmaker's Shop. We've got rares galore. I feel like so will everyone else. So I wanted to make sure I could splash for and include as much removal as I pretty much possibly could. Unable to Scream, Stay Hidden, Stay Silent, Double Dragonfire, Double Murder, 2 counter spells, a Trapped in the Screen, a Vanish from Sight, Drag to the Roots. I feel like we're going to need to be removing stuff. The Marina Vendrell is working with like 16, 17 enchantments. We got a Gremlin Tamer to make more. And we opened 7 copies of Terramorphic Expanse in our 14 pools, 14 packs here, along with all sorts of dual lands. Our mana, I feel like, is going to be pretty close to perfect with this. I have no idea if this is going to be good. This is a super goofy format. I'm going to take this pretty lightly and lightheartedly as we go through this league here, because, you know, it's fun. It could produce some funny, goofy games with a lot of rares and weird mana bases. So this is what I'm going to start this zombie league with. You will be able to see the standings in between each of my matches as we kind of work our way through. And maybe we can pull out a 7-3 or something and then find our way into top 8. There's about, 50 or 60 members in this league. So see if we can find our way into top 8. So without further ado, let's dive our way into match number 1. Okay, so our first match is here against Rezre, who has already played a few games in this league so far, is 2-1. Rank 16, playing a teamer deck here. We obviously start with a record of 0-0 in this league. And we're going to give this fun little deck a try, starting on the draw with a hand that's not great, but it's got some of the best cards in our deck in it. So we'll go ahead and keep it here and lead on a tap land. So I'm going to cut in and out of a lot of these matches. As I mentioned in the previous AGL videos, these games and these matches take a long time to record, and I'm going to save your time and mine so that this video isn't 3 hours long. So we'll cut in and out, and I'm going to comment over the top of this video, commentary style per se. So we go ahead and remove their aggressive Wildfire Wickerfolk here, and we are still just in the developing portions of the game. We've got Dragonfire available for us next turn, but a decent little top deck in Skull Snap Nuisance here. Obviously don't want the Valgavoth's Onslaught to be cast for 1. You usually want that to be cast for X equals 5, or sorry, X equals 3 if you can get away with it. That's the best version of that card. And a nice little match here between the Nuisance and their Watchdog, a 1-4 and a 3-1. And we just get to surveil our way towards more lands here with this this Mirror Room, copying this Nuisance, getting us a couple of eerie triggers. Technically just 1, but still. And we do have the ability to cast that with 2 flyers on the board here. So my thought is I probably should attack here, and I do. I mean, this still blocks, and if they attack, I'm probably not blocking now that I know that Enduring Curiosity is coming. And Glimmerlight changes that for us as well, because obviously they're going to make that a 4-2. And I really can't block anymore. So now, Glimmerlight is going to let both of our nuisances draw cards here. No sense in waiting to cast it. They don't have any sort of priority. So we'll get a couple of triggers, and apparently that was enough. Apparently they were a little bit stuck on lands or saw the value too much. So go ahead and get that concession, and then we go to game 2. And like I mentioned in the intro, we've got 14 packs of Duskmourn to consider when sideboarding here. I chose not to make any sideboarding decisions, largely because I was a bit overwhelmed. There are so many cards in this sideboard. I didn't know what to do. I didn't really see anything different in game 1 that I was like, oh my god, this card's going to be horrible, or this card's going to be great. So go ahead and bottom the restricted office, because I had it in my hand last game and wasn't really doing anything. So just going to go ahead and get rid of that. And now I have to figure out what I want to do as far as sequencing my lands here. If I go Raucous Carnival into Island, I have a turn 2 Gremlin Tamer. But if I Terramorphic Expanse for Forest, then I have a turn 3 Centipede. So it's a tough decision what to do there. I opt for the Gremlin Tamer, and I'm a little bit punished with them playing the Bookworm, as it kind of blanks my Gremlin Tamer here. So have to hope for something like Forest off the top to really get lucky here. Otherwise, we're playing on a turn delay. And don't get a Forest, but we get a card we can at least cast. Holds back their Bookworm. And the Stalked Researcher is basically just in this deck as a little bit of defensive speed to get us toward things like Marina Vendrell and things of that sort. Threats around every corner, make a 2-2, get a land, draw a card, get a 1-1 counter. Not bad for 4 mana. Certainly not bad. Would have been happy trading either of these cards for Cryptid Inspector had they attacked, but they did not. So now I have to decide between Centipede and Moldering Gem. And my thought here is if I Moldering Gem, next turn I can go Centipede, get a land, play it, and also still have Scorching Dragonfire up. And I think that's... And it also gets me a 1-1 with my Gremlin Tamer here. So that's why I opt for this line. It's a little bit slower, but I think it's more mana efficient here. So go ahead and get black, as we don't have access to black yet. And again, next turn, we skip forward just a little bit, and we did kind of make the line that I'd mentioned, but we skip forward to when we are able to cast Marina Vendrell and only get access to 2 cards, but they're fine. You know, they've got a 6/5. We managed to deal with the rest of the board in the meantime with Overlord, and they killed the Overlord and all sorts of things like that. So we traded resources back and forth, got our life total relatively low, but Marina Vendrell also has this line of text where you could just tap it and unlock a room. So we tap and get a free 5/5, which is just pretty good to me. So unlock the weight room, get a 1/1, get a free 5/5, and then we also have Fear of Immobility to lock down their 6/5 here in the meantime. As a little bit more defensive speed, it gets us, once again, another 1/1, as it is an enchantment. They are getting priority here, so I'm a little worried about what it could possibly be. But willing to sit back a little bit. Okay, so it is Entity Tracker. We skip forward just a turn or so. We've played another Fear of Immobility. We played a Fear of Infinity. They killed one of our Marina Vendrells with a monstrous emergence, so we were able to play our other one as well. And now we've just got 5 gremlins, hit them down to 3. We're drawing 3 cards. We're back at 5. I assume a board wipe is the only thing that could realistically get them out of this here. And Glimmerburst is draw number 1. Draw 3 cards off of Entity Tracker. Threats around every corner makes another 2/2 and draws another card. They've got a pretty good engine going on here, but I think our deck has just kind of gotten out to too good of a start. They're also flooding a little bit. Another land there. And doing the math as far as combat goes, we've got 2 removal spells in hand if anything goes awry on our turn as well. And pass it back, and now 3 removal spells, so now it's just a matter of... I mean, there's nothing to really unlock. We could lock a room, but I think it's just remove 3 creatures, attack all, and if they can somehow get out of that, good for them. Go ahead and lock that one down. Go ahead and Dragonfire the Entity Tracker. Flip up the long neck. Put a counter, and the concession arrives. And we get our first match win here. Again, this league is only 10 matches. So we're fighting our way to, I feel like 7-3 is probably going to be a good record enough to get into top 8 here. But we jump up to 1-0, move up to 24th place. You can see several members above us, 19 through 23, have finished their 5 matches for the week. But we are here at 1-0. And again, I did lose access to one of my Duskmourn packs in between these matches, as I did win, including a Spineseeker Centipede and a Raucous Carnival. So I went ahead and had to take those cards out and decided to swap them in with a Swamp and an Oblivious Bookworm. Now our match number 2 is against RRRN22, who is also 2-1 in rank 15 with a Jeskai deck, playing against us 1-0 with our 5-color nonsense. So opponents first. We've got a Gremlin Tamer. We've got a lot of enchantments, but only 1 blue mana. I just realized that now. I mean, don't think this is a mulligan necessarily, but Gremlin Tamer meet Gremlin Tamer. Let's see if one of them can outrace the other here. And we don't block because we got a lot of enchantments potentially coming. And now I think we're just going to go ahead, be mana efficient here, play Fear of Infinity, and instantly get punished with another Entity Tracker. And I guess the only difference is that we would have gotten an extra 1-1 had I played pre-combat, but usually, everybody tells me, play post-combat. But we are able to now kill the Entity Tracker with the post-combat Unable to Scream, so I think it worked out fine. They got the 2-for-1, but that card is going to get a 6-for-1 most of the time, so I'll take a 2-for-1. And gosh, they have a blue-white draft deck, is what it's looking like here, because we're getting beat down for 3. We can't cast any more than 1 spell per turn. The mana situation of our deck is coming back to bite us a little bit here. So what can I cast? I just cast the best blocker I can. And you will see shortly that it will not matter, as they have, I believe, a Trapped in the Screen to get a counter, to get a 1-1, to remove our blocker, to put us to like 6 or something, and then we still can't cast many more than 1 spell in our hand at any of these points, and their blue-white draft deck is destroying our greedy mana deck here in game number 1. And we have to quickly move on to game number 2. And a murder is just not going to do it, so we concede. Sideboarding for this matchup, a much more aggressive matchup. I actually bring in all the Stalked Researchers. I don't think the Twist Reality or the Restricted Office is particularly great in this matchup, so I take all 3 of those out. All their spells that they presented were very, very cheap, so I just bring in just blockers so I can block their 2/2s and 1/1s and take out the expensive board wipe and expensive counter spells here. A little bit of a greedy keep. I am on the play. My deck isn't going to have many better hands than this one, so this is what I go ahead and decide to keep here. Terramorphic for Forest to start, and then we have the same conundrum on turn 3 as we did a couple of games ago with the Centipede and the Moldering Gym here, but we'll see if we can make any sort of decision by then. or if our second top deck here changes the calculus or not. Fear of Infinity. So one option I debated was Fear of Infinity and then next turn Mirror Room on that. And then I have 2 flying lifelinkers, but I just didn't think that was enough. I need to get the mana situation underneath me so that I can actually, like, survive here. So now I can kind of, like, Centipede and then also cast the Nuisance after it as well. As I'm looking to get a second blue here. However, the Centipede, they realize how important it is to my game plan and do not let me resolve that. So, miss land drop. Never like to see that. Skip forward a little bit, and they haven't really done much necessarily. We've done that play of playing Fear of Infinity and copying it with Mirror Room. They played a Glimmerlight trapped in the screen and not much more than that past here. So just skip forward a couple turns here. We do have attacks, and I'm not really interested in removing what they got going on, so I'm debating unlocking Weight Room for a 5/5. I'm also debating should I hold up Murder, but I think just using 6 mana here when I have it is going to be pretty nice. Dragonfire seems pretty good against their deck, but I think I'm looking for something a little bit more impactful. Also, not to mention, I also realized that the Dragonfire was going to be revealed by Manifest Dread, so regardless of whether I kept it on top or not, I just put it in the bottom or in the graveyard. And it didn't matter because it looks like they were flooding out just a little bit. So I went ahead and actually saw Pyroclasm in my sideboard. I feel like with all these 1/1s and Gremlin Tamers and stuff, this could be pretty darn good in this matchup. So I brought in Pyroclasm and brought out Murder and are presented with a 0 lander here. So we have to take a mulligan. You love to see it. And once again, not a great hand here either. So, I mean, I can't play Bookworm. I can't play anything in my hand, but I hate going to 5 more than I care to believe. So, you know, I skip forward because we had like absolutely no plays. We played a Centipede and an Underwater Tunnel, and they were just curving out with their blue-white deck like their blue-white deck is designed to do. But I skip forward to where I actually started to have some decisions to make. And go ahead and get rid of this Optimistic Scavenger. And by get rid of, I mean I make it a 1/3 for the time being, so that it doesn't pump their creatures further. So Entity Tracker leads me to believe they're going to be playing another enchantment pre-combat here. And I believe it will be a grand entryway, if I remember correctly. Or not. It was grand entryway. So they go ahead and grand entryway plus entity tracker is, oof, that is a busted combo. 2 mana for a 1/1 that draws 2 cards. Yeah, that's pretty good. I kind of, at this point, have to make trades. Because I'm at 10. If I didn't block, I'd be at 2, and I would die. So, yeah, we go ahead and block the Fear and the 2/2 in the event that the Manifest ends up being something relevant. Go down to 7. Gremlin Tamer is interesting. I would love to Gremlin Tamer and Trapped in the Screen here, but I can't do that. What I can do is Bookworm and Trapped in the Screen. And I think that's the option I'm going to have to take, because this Entity Tracker, I mean, if they draw any more cards, I'm pretty close to just being dead already. But if they draw any more cards, it's pretty much over at that point. So I thought about getting rid of Fear of Infinity, but this Attic is never being cast this game. I can't afford to draw 2, lose 2. So I go ahead and dump that. And they currently have 4 damage on board, 6 damage represented if they have Elegant Rotunda, and a removal spell. And I was about to good game, but I realized I'm not officially dead. I guess something we could do is Gremlin Tamer plus Sphere of Infinity and make a 1/1. But we are at 1 now. And the only option I have with the top decked land is to play Gremlin Tamer, play Fear of Infinity, and hope that my opponent doesn't realize that Fear of Infinity cannot block. That's about all I can do. And I'm going to do a little bit of an arena trick here, hold full control, make them think that I have some sort of combat trick with Mountain. Just to potentially dissuade them from attacking, put the stop on their main phase, and then as soon as they present all 3 attackers, that will get the good game. And we do lose to a nice streamlined Jeskai, mainly blue-white deck there. So we do unfortunately grab a loss here early on in the league, go from 1-1 in 24th place to 1-0 to 1-1, dropping down to 27th place just a little bit. And still behind some of the 2-3s and a couple other 1-0s. So head into match 3 against a Mardu deck, against an opponent who hasn't played a match yet in Sinkwater. They are 0-0 so far in the league. And we get to go first. And this restricted office lecture hall has been in our hand quite a bit. And it's really never done anything. So, foreshadowing, I don't lose it as a part of my any potential wins that I rack up past our first one in this video here, but it does not survive this deck much longer, as it really has not been great for us. So, go ahead and play the Murky Sewer. I wish I would have played Lakeside Shack there. Actually, the reason I played Murky Sewer is because of Murder. That's the reason I played that there. Next turn, I'm playing Lakeside Shack and Nuisance, pretty assuredly. We're finding nothing but lands here, but, you know, what can you do? At least next turn we can cast Murder. Not particularly close to the restricted office, but we're going against red-white, so it likely, once again, won't matter, because it only destroys creatures with power 3 or greater. Grand Entryway. Yep, that's a 1/1. Oh, look. A land. So we skip forward. We've still got all the lands. All we've drawn is a Researcher and Tunnel. But if you look at the top of our deck, that's a Valgavott's Onslaught. And I said casting this card for 3 is where you want to be. And that's exactly what we did here. And, yeah, a resolved Valgavott's Onslaught for X = 3 is pretty tough to beat, got to admit. So we get 3 5/5s, and all those lands early on came back to reward us here late in this game. Go ahead and crack their land. They've got a couple counters that they've already distributed from the Elegant Rotunda here. And the restricted office is just rotting in my hand once again. There is another land, and this attack tells me, first of all, combat trick. Second of all, there's probably a second Arabella in hand, if this is what's going to happen here. I try to go ahead and just get rid of this Arabella. Willing to take 2 as I am at 14. Don't want to trade the 2/2 for my 5/5 if the trick is like turn inside out or something. But no, the card in hand was split up. Destroy all of my creatures. Absolutely brutal. So, skip forward a little bit. We've drawn a Fear of Infinity. We have manifested off of the Slimy Aquarium. And we do have, you can't see it, but we have a Marina Vendril under our manifest right now. Which I would love to turn up, but I'm worried about this interaction with Vanish from Sight right now. I'm trying to read it. If I Vanish from Sight this hover ship, Do I get to keep my creature, or is my creature just exiled for good and I don't get it anymore? I know with Fear of Abduction, if I were to vanish from sight in response to the trigger, I'd lose access to my creature forever. And I did not want to risk that here, so I let this resolve. I might have gotten that wrong based on rules, but that's where I decided to go. If any of you are watching and you know how that rules interaction works, particularly with the hover ship, go ahead, drop a comment and let me know. It has to do with, like, until this leaves the battlefield, or when this enters, or some weird magic ruling kind of thing going on. So we've got Vanish in Sight from hand and Scorching Dragonfire off the top for the Enduring Innocence, which is exactly what we need for that. So go ahead and attack with the Infinity. And hope that they, like, attack with Innocence, I block, and then they try to get a combat trick and I just Dragonfire in response. But since they didn't do that, I do go ahead and present the Dragonfire here at their end step. Don't know what they could have. It could just be the crew of the hover ship. But Enduring Innocence down. Head back to my turn. And that, my friends, is a very nice draw. But we'll go ahead and attack first like a good boy. And play the Marina Vendril and draw 3 cards. The Mirror Room copying Fear of Infinity was pretty good last time, so I go ahead and attempt to take that line again. And we are about at the point here where I think our value has accrued an insurmountable lead. Unstoppable Slasher. Too little too late for that. We got too many ways to deal with that here. So go ahead and unlock this for free, because why not? Go ahead, double top. And that will do it. So, in sideboarding, I realize we're going up against another relatively aggressive deck. Take out that stupid Office, take out just a random card draw spell, bring in 3 of the Researchers and the Pyroclasm, similar to the last aggressive deck, and take out the 2 expensive counter spells as well. So, head into game 2 on the draw here, and we've got the Pyroclasm in hand, so hopefully we're presented with a pretty good board that it can just kind of clean up here, and I have to decide exactly what color to start with. Arabella, looking at the Pyroclasm in my hand like, nope, that won't do it. Go ahead and play the Lighthouse so that I can play Researcher next turn and or Scorching Dragonfire. But no plays means I might have a little bit of time here. And this Moldering Gem is probably going to have to get cast here at some point. So go ahead and do that now. And look at my hand. Identify that I need 2 red for Pyroclasm and Dragonfire here. And no plays. You love to see that out of an aggro deck. Most Valuable Slayer. It's a pretty good one. Pyroclasm just looking horrible here. And all the lands still do have access to Pyroclasm plus Dragonfire, but that doesn't really do much. So I go ahead and just get rid of this Arabella before my life total gets too low. Play the Researcher, which I know can't block the Most Valuable Slayer, at least right now. And pass it back here. Go ahead, play a tap land for red. Have to take 3 here now. And Fear of Surveillance is fine. We skip forward a little bit. I've unlocked one of the weight rooms here. Got a 5/5. They haven't changed much, but they did play a hover ship. And now they're going to trap in the screen our 5/5. And our life total is getting lower and lower by the minute here. Pyroclasm currently can trade for at least the fear of surveillance, but is that going to be enough? Because this hover ship now, if I don't block, next turn hover ship is lethal no matter what. So I kind of have to preserve my life total and hope I can draw a removal spell for this most valuable Slayer. But instead it's just our 13th land, and that is not going to do anything. We're technically not dead on board because the Pyroclasm can kill the fear of surveillance, except for the fact that they do have a way to save their fear of surveillance, and that does mean we are, in fact, dead on board. So we go ahead and concede here. And if I didn't, I hope I took out the Pyroclasm, but I did not. I took out Vanish from Sight and Dollmaker's Shop for a couple Fear of Lost Teeth, which block relatively well against some of these creatures that they have presented. I think the Dollmaker's Shop is much more of an aggressive card. I just don't think it's very good in this matchup particularly. So I keep this sketchy hand because I have an Underwater Tunnel on turn 2, and I'm hoping that can help me find my way towards the lands that I need. It definitely is a sketchy hand, though. I'm not denying that. Go ahead, play the tunnel, see what we can find off the top. And unfortunately, I mean, the Gremlin Tamer is pretty good. I need lands. The Pyroclasm I can't cast, so I throw that away. But I keep the Gremlin Tamer because it goes wide. So I skip forward a little bit. Life totals has been exchanged. We finally draw our 5th land to play Marina Vendrell. They've kind of stumbled a little bit. We've kind of removed their stuff. They've played a couple of cheap things, but haven't really, like, put a ton of pressure on us. The Gremlin Tamer has died. A Stalked Researcher has died. We've removed a most valuable Slayer, so we traded resources and a little bit of life total. Got a Bookworm and a Victor down. And down goes Marina Vendrell. Let me have my fun. But that's alright. The Unable to Scream is going to take care of the most valuable Slayer quite nicely, as you can see here. And now we have, once again, Valgavoth's Onslaught for our most valuable Slayer of opponents. So they just, you know, sometimes with these aggro decks, you draw your cards in the wrong order, and they just don't quite get the job done. Seems to be what happened here in the last game for Sinkwater. We also drew some of our best cards, so this matchup could really go either way. I feel like if we played 100 matches between the two of us, it'd probably be pretty close to 50-50. The decks line up pretty well against each other for a good match. So we go from 27th place with a record of 1-1, and we move up to 16th with a record of 2-1. You can see Rez now 2-2 underneath us a little bit, and we're making our way up the rankings today. So as again I won, and unfortunately we lost a copy of Marina Vendrell in our pack that we had to replace. So I took that out. I took the Gremlin Tamer out. Well, I lost that too, and I lost a Murder and a Moldering Gem and a land. I lost a lot of things, and I brought in a little Reanimate kind of big mana fixing package here. So play against Samuel Happyman, who is 0-2 with a Gruul, a straight red-green deck here. So I brought in the Spectral Snatcher, the Bedhead Beastie, the Slavering Branch Snapper, and Emerge from the Cocoon as ways to help with my fixing now that I'm starting to lose a couple of my lands and fixing pieces like the Moldering Gem. I lost a Spineseeker Centipede already. So I have to be careful that my fixing doesn't get too bad as I start to lose access to the cards with more and more wins that I get. So I'm bringing in some Land Cyclers just to make sure that change kind of work. So happy to trade the Researcher for their Death Toucher here. And once again, we have the Mirror Room Fear of Infinity, unless it gets exiled. So little did they know that was an important thing to do there. So I didn't really have very many choices to make. I skipped forward a little bit. We got a land. We played Fear of Immobility, locked down a 5/4. They played a 2/1 and a Manifest Dread here. So go ahead and copy our Fear of Immobility, and I think the best thing to do is going to be to lock down the Thresher. And I'm wondering, can I outrace this? I've got 2 4/4, so I think I can. Next turn I've got a 7/6 coming. So we'll go ahead and do that. Skip forward just a turn or so. They have gotten Delirium. Still have their 5/4. Their Centipede is now a 3/3. So I have to decide attacks here. Pretty easy to attack with both, I think. But they are getting priority. So they've got some sort of instant here, which is potentially not great. And it is a Manifest Dread, which means they can trade for my Snatcher, which I think is fine. So we trade there, put them to 3, play a 2/3, and I decide, do I want to take 2 damage from the Attic to draw 2 cards? And I think the answer to that is yes. So I go ahead, draw 2 more cards here, lose 2 life, and they draw 5 cards with a Peer Past the Veil, an absolutely busted top deck from them. And I draw a Nuisance and a Murky Sewer. I can play both, and now I have to hope that the 5 cards plus their draw step is not good enough, but pretty good chance it's gonna be. Skip forward, they haven't done anything except attacked here, and I have to make a decision. They've now got 6 cards in hand. I choose not to block, and unfortunately, they got to turn inside out, and that's lethal. I mean, I guess I could have blocked there. It's a tough block decision. I choose not to sideboard between game 1 and game 2. Have to mulligan to 6, as do they in game 2 here. I mean, again, that's a tough block decision there. With 6 cards in hand and like 10 mana, I do not believe that I had lethal on the backswing. I had a 4/4, but they were going to play 2 or 3 creatures and possibly a removal spell anyway, so I could have chumped. But if they didn't have a combat trick, then I just threw away a creature when they were at 3, which is really bad. So, tough block decision there. I don't know what I would do if presented with the same choice again in the future. But good news is I don't have to right now. We lost. So, we're on to game 2. Unfortunately, our opponent has mulliganed to 4 in this matchup, which is not where you want to be, but at least we mulligan to 6 for their sake, so they did find a forest, and here comes Flesh Burrower. Skip forward just a little bit. We have locked down their Flesh Burrower. They have Manifested Dread. I'm kind of waiting for the Valgavoth's Onslaught, but go ahead and block, and now we get to use Murder to blow them out nice here. So we will go ahead and do that. Hopefully we can draw a land so we can slam a 6/5 here. That would be nice. Not quite. But if we draw a land next turn, we've got Valgavoth's Onslaught for X equals 3, which is the exact spot you want to be. And we get to surveil with the Nuisance. And we find a tap land. Not exactly what I was looking for, so I throw it into the bin. Something I could do is cycle the Spectral Snatcher to guarantee my 7th land, which I did not do. I let it go back to my turn, and I drew a Terramorphic Expanse. So I played the Snatcher, cracked the Expanse. We are on to my next turn, where I now get to cast Valgavoth's Onslaught for X equals 3. But I remember to attack first. And yeah, pretty good when you're able to resolve an onslaught for x equals 3. So we pass it back, and we've got all kinds of lethal. Next turn here. If I've learned anything when playing with and against Clockwork Percussionist, it is never block the monkey. So we'll see if they choose to attack here. They do not. And I don't really have any options other than to smash with everything. So that's what I do. And I go ahead and just present lethal here because I don't really have anything else to do. And it looks like it was, in fact, lethal. Now in sideboarding here, go ahead and take out this stupid restricted office once again and the counter spells for a couple more defensive speed cards like Stalked Researcher and a Fear of Lost Teeth against this relatively aggressive deck, Gruul aggro with Wildfire, Wickerfolk, and things like that. Hand is not great, but I do have a turn 2 Researcher, so I think it's keepable off of the fact of that alone, hopefully. Plus, we got a lot of good draws here in the deck, too. 2 lands in a row are not among those good draws, but we'll take a Researcher. Let's see if it survives to their turn, and it does. Centipede is fine. We are making our way to the late game. I think the better chance we have to get to the late game, the better our deck is going to do. So we skip forward, and as you can see, we really haven't done anything. We drew all of the lands. So I have removed one of their creatures and traded for one of their creatures, and I think that's all I've done. Drew a Vanish from Sight, but next turn, as you can see, in hand, Valgavoth's Onslaught for the win. But first we'll attack and get kind of brutally owned by a Horrid Vigor here. But, I mean, what am I going to do? Just not attack? I mean, you kind of have to attack, right? So Horrid Vigor takes down Spectral Snatcher, but we do get Valgavoth's Onslaught for x equals 3. Post-combat here. But my thought is also I could play Underwater Tunnel and Bedhead Beastie as well. Thinking about both of those. And actually, that's what I decided to go with because there's a chance that I could draw another land to be able to do it for x equals 4. But presenting a 5/6 is also good. So we just passed through their turn. They stole our creature and bashed us. Put us down to 8, trying to get a little aggro here. But now we've got the Onslaught, and that's probably good enough to clean up this game here, I would think. So go ahead and bash in, and the Fear of Immobility can lock down a blocker here. Come back to our turn. They played a Wickerfolk. And the Peer passed the Veil. Yeah, draw 5. I mean, good card. It does its absolute best impression of getting them back into this game here, but I think the Onslaught was just a little bit too much. They told me post-matchup here, they actually have 2 Valgavoth's Onslaughts in their deck. 2? And it did not quite show up for them, unfortunately. So we take the win against a pretty good Gruul deck that unfortunately has to drop to 0-3, but I think they'll make a nice little run there. So we go from 2-1 in 16th place to 3-1 in 9th place here. You can already see a couple of our opponents so far this match, RRRN. And we did lose access to Victor and Scorching Dragonfire, unfortunately. Those were the 2 that were in the pack that we lost. I also decided to remove that stupid office, the Dollmaker Shop, and the Twist Reality, and brought in a couple of cheaper things, little defensive speed. I've been going against a lot of aggressive decks here so far in this league, so I just brought in a little bit more of those Researchers to, you know, potentially guard against that. And now we get to go against Evan, who is 4-0 in 2nd place in the entire league. So we have our work cut out for us here in this matchup. But boy, would it be nice to start off week 1 of 2 with a 4-1. That would be very, very nice. But we'll see if we can reach it. Unfortunately, a little bit of a sketchy keep. But I've got a guaranteed turn 3 Moldering Gym. Is that going to be good enough? Is it going to be fast enough? Unfortunately, with a turn 3 Unstoppable Slasher, when I don't have removal, yeah, it's not going to be enough. Can't keep that, but, you know, in the dark, not knowing that they're going to play Unstoppable Slasher is kind of brutal. So you can see it's hit us. We've dropped down to 7 because of it. We've skipped forward a little bit. They've gone ahead and removed a couple of our creatures here. I don't know what I'm looking for, but these aren't the answers. I guess I could have Onslaught for 2 there. That might have been good enough. But now they've got 4 power here. A removal spell plus a flipped manifest would do it. Let's see if they've got enough for lethal. Kind of have to block here because I'd be dead if it is anything big. And it is something big. And it also has trample, of course. Got the Onslaught for X equals 3 now. So technically not dead, but I am dead to literally any removal spell. Just a brutal beat because the Unstoppable Slasher dealt like an additional, I think, 7 damage to us this game. So realistically, we're at 8 right now. But the Slasher killed us. And, yeah, that did it. So, going to sideboarding, I bring in an Impossible Inferno. And I take out one of those Researchers. Because this deck isn't particularly aggressive like all the other ones have been. And I think the Inferno could actually do some good work. But we get to start with the mulligan. And you know what? We get to go to 5. You know, sometimes you lose to the deck. Started with a 1-lander, mulled to a 6-lander with a 6-drop, which is basically a 7-lander. So we got to go to 5. And we're playing on the play 3 cards down to our opponent. And if you've never played Magic before, that is not a recipe to win. So we skip forward to the first decision we could possibly make in this matchup, which was Centipede. We've drawn a couple of decent draws here, but like we haven't, like I said, it's just so hard to come back from this. So we're going to do our best with Enduring Curiosity here and see if that can get us a couple of cards back. But in fact, they get it on their side and get to attack us for 2 creatures and draw 2 more cards. Just a brutal beat. I gave a little bit of an early GG there, which was kind of me tilting in the moment. It's just like, I think their deck is better than ours, but like we're just kind of like every single one of the brutal beats that we've got is just destroying me right now. So go ahead and attack to get the card. Draw another tap land, and I guess my plan is to vanish from sight something right now. Don't really have anything else I can do. I'm kind of just waiting for the Onslaught at this point. Hoping it's enough at some point to get us back into this game. And for mana efficiency's sake, I kind of just have to use Vanish from sight. But Kaito is the play. Like, these 2 games against Evan here, maybe it's because Evan is 4-0 and is a great player in this league, and I don't doubt that for a second. I believe that might be the majority of this. But also, like, it seems like everything we're planning to do, what Evan does after that is just like the exact perfect counter to what I'm planning to do. And maybe that's the sign of a great player, being like, oh, I can predict what you're going to do, so I'm going to play around it. Or it's just like Kaito, when I'm holding up a removal spell, it's brutal. And a multi 5, just brutal. Um, you know, trying to make our way to Valgobot's Onslaught. The train is signaling the end of this match quite quickly here. So, I really don't want to use Stay Hidden, Stay Silent on an Oblivious Bookworm, as they do still get the triggered abilities at the end of turn. But I really need to draw into something here off of this Enduring Curiosity, like, pretty badly to really stand a chance. I have to deal with Kaito, I have to draw cards, I have to draw lands, I need to draw non-lands, I need so many different things here. I just need to, like, all the cards in hand that I can possibly have. So I make a very suboptimal play. Draw an extra card. It is a land, so we are able to Terramorphic, and next turn, Onslaught. For 3, which was promptly, in case you were wondering, countered. So that makes... No, it's never mind, not countered. It's right. It's resolving right now. I didn't see it anywhere but on the stack, so I thought it was countered here. But we are able to resolve it. But maybe it was countered. Maybe I was thinking it was countered because Evan played perfectly around it here and was able to fight his way through 3 5/5s on this board, which is quite impressive. And I think this turn I made a pretty huge punt. I have no idea why I did this. Oh, I know. It wasn't a punt. I know exactly why I did this. They have a face-up Horrid Vigor in their hand. So if I double or triple block their manifested 5/5, everything I block with dies. You know? So the best I can do is block with one creature, and then all I gotta do is just flip it up and eat my card. And they still have their Horrid Vigor in hand. So it's just like, you know, I play Valgobot's Onslaught, and then I'm like, but you have Horrid Vigor, so it doesn't matter. Like, again, I think just the sign of a great player on the other side of the battlefield here that we just might be slightly outmatched against. I decided to keep that on top for reasons unknown. It's not really going to solve our issue here. I have to take 7, go to 4. I know what I'm drawing. I know they still have Horrid Vigor in hand. They've got 7 cards in hand here. Like, what am I doing? They got 8 cards in hand now. Skip forward. We played the Branch Snapper. They play Curiosity, or they attack with Curiosity. I have to block it. They use the Horrid Vigor because why wouldn't they? I go to 1. Technically not dead on board here. But as I like to say, pretty darn close. Bookworm has been drawing cards. Kaito's been drawing cards. Curiosity's been drawing cards. Horrid Vigor has been ravaging our entire deck and hand. Passes it back after cracking a Terramorphic Expanse. And what better way to go out than with a land off the top of our deck. So this matchup was effectively never even remotely close. I think we probably lose this matchup the majority of times. Evan's got a great pool of rares. Still like 15 rares left in his pool. And after this matchup, I went and looked which rare that he lost, and it wasn't one he was playing. Kept the Enduring Curiosity, kept Kaito, kept all the good cards. So Evan seems like a front runner in this league so far, finishing this week 5-0. But you know what? We take a respectable 3-2 record into week 2. So we are rank 9 again. Top 8 qualify for a mega draft, and it's just 2 weeks long. So next Sunday you will see week 2 of the Arena Gauntlet League Zombie League for Duskmourn here. And we kind of going to have to go 4-1 to make top 8, I would think. You know, I don't think a 6-4 record is going to get you there. I think you really need 7-3. So we're going to have a good week 2, go on a run here, as there are at least 7 players who are 4-1 or better already. So hope you enjoyed the recap of week 1 AGL Zombie League here. See you next Sunday. for week number 2. Thanks for tuning in today. See you next time here at Daily Draft.